This is the Ramana Maharshi satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm not a guru or a teacher. I love this teaching, so I just want to share it. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. This week is from Talk 141. Let me get it on screen and read it. The same gentleman later, after quoting a verse from Kavalya, asked, "Can jhana be lost after being once attained?" Maharshi says jhana, once revealed, takes time to steady itself. The self is certainly within the direct experience of everyone, but not as one imagines it to be. It is only as it is. This experience is Samadhi. Just as fire remains without scorching against incantations or other devices, but scorches otherwise, so also the self remains veiled by vasanas and realizes itself when there are no vasanas. Owing to the fluctuation of the vasanas, jhana takes time to steady itself. Unsteady jhana is not enough to check rebirths. Jhana cannot remain unshaken side by side with vasanas. True that in the proximity of a great master, the vasanas will cease to be active, the mind becomes still, and samadhi results, similar to fire not scorching because of other devices. Thus, the disciple gains true knowledge and right experience in the presence of the master. To remain unshaken in it, further efforts are necessary. He will know it to be his real being, and thus be liberated even while alive. Samadhi with closed eyes is certainly good, but one must go further until it's realized that actionlessness and action are not hostile to each other. Fear of loss of samadhi while one is active is the sign of ignorance. Samadhi must be the natural life of everyone. There is a state beyond our efforts or effortlessness. Until it is realized, effort is necessary. After tasting such bliss, even once, one will repeatedly try to regain it. Having once experienced the bliss of peace, no one would like to be out of it or engage himself otherwise. It is as difficult for a jnani to engage in thoughts as it is for an ajnani to be free from thought. The common man says that he does not know himself. He thinks many thoughts and cannot remain without thinking. Any kind of activity does not affect a jnani. His mind remains ever in eternal peace. In this dialogue, a gentleman asked whether jnana, direct spiritual knowledge, can be lost once it's attained. Ramana Maharshi responds with deep insights into the nature of jnana, the role of vasanas, mental tendencies, the significance of a spiritual master, and the relationship between samadhi, meditative absorption, and worldly action. Ramana begins by explaining that jhana, once realized, takes time to stabilize. It's not a fleeting or temporary experience. Jhana is the direct experience of the self, but it's crucial to understand that it's not as you imagine it. It is simply as it is. This experience of the self is samadhi, profound absorption. Ramana talks about vasanas, which are mental impressions and tendencies that rise from past experiences. These vasanas act as veils, obscuring the true nature of the self. Vasanas are habits based on the search for happiness, mistakenly looking for it in the external world. The vasana rises due to your search for happiness and memory where once you thought you found it. Until you truly know that happiness is found within yourself, vasanas will continue. Due to these vasanas, jnana takes time to become stable. Unsteady jnana is insufficient to break the cycle of rebirth, samsara. Nomi's practice on his way to steady realization was to focus on his vasanas and remove them. After doing this for several years, then the final steady realization came. Ramana emphasizes that in the presence of a realized master, the vasanas become dormant, the mind becomes still, and samadhi naturally occurs. This transformative experience with the master leads to true knowledge and experience of the self. However, further efforts are needed to remain unshaken in this state. Without a master, the search is more difficult because you depend more on your own mind, which is what you're trying to overcome. While samadhi with closed eyes is beneficial, Ramana advises going further to realize that actionlessness, inner stillness, and action in the world are not opposed to each other. Fear of losing samadhi while engaging in worldly activities is ignorance. Ramana says that samadhi should become the natural state of everyone. Until this is realized, effort is necessary. Finally, we should all just be happy knowing ourselves. After tasting the bliss of peace that comes with self-realization, you become eager to regain it. A jnani who has realized the self finds it as challenging to engage in mundane thoughts as it is for an ajnani, one who hasn't realized the self, to be free from thought. Activities do not disturb a jnani. Their mind remains in a state of eternal peace. And now we have a talk from Nomi, Knowledge and Inquiry.
Self-knowledge is the self-revelation of being in its own self-luminous nature. This transcends any objectified conception. It transcends transient experience, events, states of mind, conditions of the body, etc. If you would know yourself, you would find your nature to be entirely formless, yet entirely real, unborn and imperishable, limitless, of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss, and naturally immortal. So to realize the highest truth, the truth of Brahman, the truth of the Self, Sri Bhagavan gave the instruction that one should inquire profoundly as to who am I? Who you are can never be something objective. Therefore, in inquiring who am I within yourself, cease to misidentify with whatever is objectified conception. If you would cease to misidentify with the body, with anything conceived in thought, and even with the notion I, the assumption of existing as an individual entity, the self would shine forth to itself with that self-luminous innate knowledge. Just abandon the misidentification with what is an it, that is the known. Discern the real knower, that is, trace your own consciousness inward, your own sense of existence to its very essence. If that much is accomplished in your spiritual effort, everything's perfect. Indeed, the great perfection is always being perfectly full. But you will know it, and what you know, you are. This realization does not belong to an individual, for it is in the non-existence of the individual, the ego, that this knowledge shines. The knowledge is not differentiated from the knower. There is no triadic division of knower, knowing, and known in true knowledge. So we may say the knowledge shines for itself. Being reposes in itself, without the least trace of I. without the least trace of I am the mind, without the least trace of I am the body. By inquiry, remain at peace, unmoving, in the knowledge of yourself. Who am I? Deeply inquire in such a manner. The individuality of the inquirer vanishes. The self remains. That which remains is actually the eternal reality. Knowledge simply reveals what is. If it's objective, if you can think of it, it is not you. If it is differentiated, it is not real. Knowledge of the self as it is knowledge of reality as it is. Since you are no small particularized thing, but you are only the infinite, the eternal, the one that actually exists. Inquire, know yourself, and you'll comprehend what's being alluded to.
All right, and now we're going to inquire for ourselves. Notice that you exist, and you know that you exist. Inquire, investigate within yourself. What is the nature of jhana, and why does it take time to stabilize? Reflect that true knowledge of the self is not a fleeting experience, but a profound realization. It is not thinking. It is direct experience. How do vasanas obscure the self? And why is unsteady jhana insufficient? Within yourself, investigate your vasanas and their role in hindering self-realization. How can you reconcile the state of samadhi with inner stillness and the engagement in worldly actions? Can samadhi coexist with active participation in daily life? What is the significance of the peaceful bliss of self-realization? And why does it lead to a profound transformation in one's life? Feel the power of experiencing inner peace and the natural inclination to maintain it. Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? Right. And let's close with our chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace.
That was really a good session, and I liked some of the questions in the meditation that are new.
Uh-huh. I actually like them too.
Yeah,
It's different thinking about them and writing them down from actually looking at it and doing this internal investigation.
yes, yeah, yep, and and I really appreciate Ramana's saying in so many words that uh, investigation can't just be in for an hour in your room with nobody bothering you and meditating. It has
Right.
to go on
Yes.
in daily life,
Yes.
because it's in daily life that you're going to meet up with your vasanas for sure,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
in your closet.
Right. So you can still kind of gin them up in the closet.
Yeah, but they can come right at you when you're outside.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And And again, I appreciated that from what Nomi said of his practice, a real large part of it
Mhm.
was going after the vasanas. And
Yeah.
sometimes he would talk about, you can hunt your vasanas down. You don't have to
Mhm.
just wait.
Yeah. Well, I find they come to me in the forms of what other people say and do,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
situations. And then, if the mind is doing its practice, it sees, oh, I see how that's a charged situation, and I want to react to that. So what I need is to drop it right now.
Uh-huh.
That's the practice that I find helpful,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of like just surrender that right now. That whole
Yes.
situation, you just surrender
Yes.
it. Mhm.
And I appreciate so much what Naomi had said about, vasanas are kind of the misplaced search for happiness.
Yeah,
And, the questions, how do vasanas get in the way? That's that's how they get in the way. And what is the peace of inner stillness? That's when the mind is not reaching out.
exactly. Yes. And again, as Ramana said, you can be active in the world in a
Mm-hmm.
state of peace and presence, and you can still drive your car and cook your meals and walk the dogs. And
Right,
peace and presence does not eliminate what is
right,
going on for you in the world.
right. If we're not the body, then what does it matter what the body is doing?
Right. And that's never been in our control anyway.
That's right. And, certainly there's the one story about Ramana where the man was going up the hill trying to find him and he saw what looked like a workman working on the wall and was asking, "Where's Ramana?"
Yeah. And Ramana said, I think you went that way.
Like that saying, how much people have all of these expectations and preconditions. And, that couldn't be the Holy Master there putting the bricks in the wall. So anyway, I thought it was a good session. I really liked
Yeah.
that long. What made it good was it had more of Ramana's words.
Hmm. Yeah. It was a good session.
And that's what we're here for.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good to see you. Good to be with
Thank you.
you and
Yeah. Equally.
diving into ourselves.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now